At long last, the glorious invasion of Ukraine begins. Soon, the motherland will take the wayward province into her firm embrace again. Field Marshal Putin offers cheers and many celebrations for American comrades who showed loyalty to Mother Russia. We have much gratitude and thanks for Fox News, most especially Comrade Tucker Carlson. For his loyalty, will receive highest Russian honor, the Order of Lenin. We thank Steve Bannon, admirer and student of Comrade Lenin, who led the Republicans to support of Comrade Putin's plans for Greater Russia. We thank GOP Comrade Senator Joshua Hawley, who blocked enemies of Russia that the warmonger Biden wished to appoint to his regime. Russia waits 40 years for American Republicans to throw away disgrace of Ronald Reagan. Republicans say they stand for America. Comrade Putin knows better.
Hello everybody, it's Jeff. Hope everybody had a good week. I had sort of a tactful week, I guess. My cat here is, I've been trying to figure out ways to keep the cat from getting into things, you know, jumping on countertops and stuff like that, because they're, you know, I'm afraid she'll slip and fall, and it's, you know, she's you know, a 10-month-old cat, so I don't want her to break a leg, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's just you know, but she's very hyper, and I've had to resort to using the water here to squirt her, you know, when she does something wrong. She don't like it, but she just, I don't know, it's like she doesn't like it, but she doesn't seem to get the connection that if the water means no. Okay. So I don't know. I've been looking online here on how you can train a cat. Basically, I don't know how, you know, it can, but it requires giving rewards for when it does right, you know. But she don't eat treats. That's the thing. I bought this this bag of Temptations treats, tuna flavor, and I put it in front of her. She don't even eat it. She'll only eat the canned food. She only likes that. So she's not really into that. Where my other cat before this one, that's all she would eat was these damn things. So this cat's complete opposite of that. So I don't know. So anyway, going from you know, the big news in the government, I'm going to the local news here because I have the latest issue here of Penobscot Times, and there's an article here on the front page about people wanting to get rid of a book in the library and stuff in Old Town. So I'm going to read this. This is by Sawyer Loftus. He's a staff writer, and it's from the Penobscot Times, local paper here for Bangor. And so it says, it took until the final months of David Walker's 46-year career in education for a parent to request that a book be banned from a school library. School districts across the country have seen an uptick in challenges to books in their libraries from conservative parents and policymakers over the past year. In Maine, a statewide education organization earlier this year said that schools here had also seen an uptick in such challenges, but regional school Unit 34, which serves Old Town, Alton, and Bradley, had avoided those politically charged conversations until December, when a parent filed a formal complaint that requested the book, quote, Milk and Honey, unquote, by Rupi Kaur be removed from the Leonard Middle School library and 2 classrooms that have copies. It was a first for Walker, who was retiring from his post as superintendent of the district in June. But, quote, I don't think this will be the last one, unquote, he said. Milk and Honey, which came out in 2014, is among the dozens of books that parents in Texas have sought to ban from school libraries in that state. It's a book of poetry detailing a young woman's story of sexual assault and how she grew from it. In RSU 34, the objections to the book, let's see, page here, centered around the author's depiction of sexual assault and abuse. The subject of the first of 4 sections of the book. The book isn't part of the district's curriculum, but an option for students to read it if they're interested. Since a parent filed a formal complaint under RSU 34 policy, the district formed a special committee to review the book. That committee, made up of a principal, librarian, teacher, and community member, ultimately recommended it stay on the shelves at the middle school, but the parent appealed the decision, which is how it ended up before RSU 34's board at a meeting Wednesday night. The board resoundingly rejected the appeal, allowing the book to remain on the district shelves. Before the board considered the complaint Wednesday, it opened up the floor for public comment. Teachers and students spoke with a unified message in support of keeping the book. One parent's choice for their child should not dictate whether the rest of the students in the school district have access to the title. The first person to speak was Gert Neeson, the principal of Leonard Middle School and the facilitator of the review committee. Quote, the first few chapters representing sexual assault and its efforts are descriptive and disturbing, as is sexual assault. Sexual encounters, both voluntary and involuntary, are part of our students' lives even as young as 6th grade, unquote, she said. Some 4.3% of Maine middle school students reported having experienced forced sexual contact in the 2019 Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey. In Penobscot County, 7.2% of middle school respondents said they had already had sexual intercourse. Young people at Leonard Middle School are likely among those respondents to the survey, and the book provides students with material that is helpful for their growth, Neeson said. A number of RSU 34 educators and several parents followed Neeson, highlighting the need to keep the book in the school. Not every child needs to read Milk and Honey, and not every child is ready to read the work, said Cheyenne Priest, a teacher at the middle school and parent of a middle school student. Quote, meanwhile, there may be another child that needs that book, unquote, she said. Quote, every banned book is not for every child, but every banned book might save one child, and one child saved is enough to convince me not to remove a resource entirely, unquote. While the matter is over in RSU 34, Walker said he doesn't think this will be the last time the school unit will have to deal with a request to take a controversial work off its shelves. But he has hope that the board's actions signal what he has tried to instill throughout his 17-year tenure as superintendent of Old Town area schools. Quote, it truly comes down to a parent's right, unquote, he said Thursday. Quote, I think what the board did last night was to validate a parent's right to determine, unquote. So, yeah, Maine is not immune to this fad going on in the country here, thanks to, a few loose screws in the Republican Party. And, I have to wonder, are these complaints really legit? Okay. And I have to wonder, is it because, I remember when I was in school back, in the 80s and stuff, and they were teaching us sex education, and I was in like 5th grade, I guess, 5th or 6th grade. and we watch films on how the reproduction of a life is performed, how it's done. Okay. And yeah, so the kids in the classroom kind of giggled and laughed and made fun of it and stuff like that as it was playing. But that's what you would expect from kids that young, right? I mean, so it's not like it was, going to be taken seriously. It was just something that the teachers had to do. Okay, nothing harmful about that, because that's something parents are supposed to teach their kids when they're growing up, right? So what they were doing was the work of the parents who didn't want to do it themselves. Okay. Apparently at the time people thought that kids didn't know enough about it, so they needed to educate more about it. So, we went through that phase, but they didn't ban books in the schools, okay, that talked about, sex and stuff like that. They didn't just go through the fucking shelves and say, okay, throw this one out, throw that one out, we don't want this. Nobody was doing that back then, okay? And even with television, trying to do kind of the same thing by creating TV shows about rape, the TV movie of the week or whatever, they'd do something that was like a commentary, social commentary on television, which I guess they hope that teenagers and stuff would watch and maybe learn something from it. Okay. And you didn't hear anybody complain about, oh, why are we watching this? Nobody was doing that then. Those same parents back then, okay, who raised the kids, now those kids are parents now, okay, and those kids are telling everybody, we don't want books here about this, we don't want books here about that. I'm thinking, well, what the hell changed? What changed with these people, in 30 years, okay? What the hell my generation changed for to be so prudish, I guess. I don't know what the hell. It's like they don't want to discuss anything anymore with the kids. And they don't want the kids hearing about anything, about any of that stuff either. And I'm thinking, well, something? You can bury your head in the friggin' sand all you want, okay, about these things. But these kids are going to be confronted with that. And wouldn't it be better if they knew what they were going to be up against? I mean, it's like sending a soldier off into battle, and he doesn't know that the other side's got guns and tanks, and bazookas and airplanes and all that. How are they going to fight a war if they don't know what they're going to be up against? Okay, I realize that's kind of an extreme kind of example, but doesn't that kind of illustrate my point? I mean, if you're going to send your kids out into the world after they graduate, you want them to be armed with all the knowledge that they should have in order to survive in that world, because it's not an easy place to live. All right. And, nobody should feel like they have to read anything if they don't want to. But they shouldn't take the books away from other people who would want to read the stuff. Okay. What right does somebody have to, take away a book that I want to read just because it makes them feel uncomfortable? Okay. I don't think that's right. Okay. Knowledge should be free to all. Okay, and you can't just go to a damn school and just say you can't look at these books sitting in the shelves here like this, okay? I'm sorry, but nobody made you the friggin' librarian, okay? You're just the parent. You send your kid to that school to get an education. Do you go to the school board meetings when there's something wrong with the math curriculum or the history curriculum? I mean, why doesn't any of these parents ever talk about those things? No, it's always about the books in the library all the time. Which makes me think that maybe all this is just disingenuous bullshit. That these people are only there to criticize books that their kids probably never read, but they probably read when they was younger, and they know the book is still there and they want it gone. Okay? Because, we're going through this phase here where we're trying to be like Nazi Germany, where we're going to have book burnings and stuff like that. The stupid thing is every time they write a story and they tell you what book it is they want to have removed from the shelves, that book becomes the #1 seller in the country. Okay, so every time they do this, they're actually helping the author make a shitload of money off a book that that some people, a handful of people, don't want people to read. Okay, so I guess I could say keep doing this, because you're actually putting the book in more people's hands than they ever would have got in school. Okay, because you're actually achieving the exact opposite of what you're trying to do. It may not be in the school, but it's still going to be out there in public, and guess who's going to be out there looking for it? All right? Kids like to rebel, and believe me, they're going to find that book, they're going to read it, whether you like it or not. They're going to hide it from you, and you know, you're just going to be, you know, how do we stop this? How do we stop this? You know, you don't stop it. Okay, you don't. You know, what do you think? These schools are putting out Playboy magazines and stuff for kids. Now, this is not what sexual assault is. Not something erotic, okay, for people, for kids to look at and read. If they're getting off on shit like that, there's something wrong with your kid already, and it had nothing to do with the material they're reading in school, okay? So, you know, however these parents feel about this stuff, it's really their problem, not the kid's problem. Their problem was that they were exposed to stuff when they were going to school. They didn't find anything wrong with it, but now when it's their kids that are going to school, okay, and talking about these subjects, they don't like it. They don't like it. They're actually worse than their parents were. Okay, they're actually going to these school board meetings. They're actually stirring the shit, you know, fighting with the board members, you know, making a whole big friggin' scene that has absolutely no basis, you know, at all to happen. Okay, it's just a manufactured crisis, thanks to the right wing. Okay, because social unrest is how they win elections, by stirring everything up into a friggin' frenzy. Okay, and once they win their seats, you'll never hear anything more about these books until the next time there's an election. But it's a manufactured problem. It doesn't exist. Okay, it only exists because people who are fanatical Republican idiots, okay, are going to go out there and do this out of spite. Okay, they're not being paid to do this. They're going to these schools because, oh, I heard about other people doing it, so I'm going to do it too. You know, never before have so many parents showed up at these friggin' board meetings. Never. Okay, that's never happened before. Most of the time, these board meetings happen, and you know, they start and end, and it doesn't really get much mention at all. But now all of a sudden, they become like snake pits, and they got to have police there to make sure that things don't get too rowdy. So again, that's another example of what, you know, I think is a sign that this is all manufactured, that this is just disingenuous, you know, talk, manufactured lie, you know, to, you know, create a problem that doesn't need to be solved. I think the kids probably were reading these books were fine. Some of the kids might have actually had a problem with it. I don't know. You know, you're hearing these stories from the parents, so they could be lying about what they were told, or what they, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, they're not going to let their kids sit there and contradict them in front of the board, right? So if the kids are lying about, if they're lying about what the kid said, they're not going to hear it from the kid, right? Because they don't have to. The kid doesn't have to show up to these things. So I just thought that was, you know, I mean, I know this sort of thing was going to happen eventually in Maine, but you know, the fact that, you know, you had one parent make this friggin' statement about this thing, and it stirred up a whole shit there, all this shit in the state. So I just, you know, it's really, I find it really disgusting that we have this problem here in this town, which, you know, it's usually been quiet around here when it comes to things. I mean, we see social unrest happening on the news, on television in Maine, but we don't get to really see it happen too much around here. But now, what's mainstream in the rest of the country is now trying to make its way burrow its friggin' ugly head here. So, you know, what the hell are you gonna do? Okay, so let's go to a commercial break, and I'll be right back.
Dear CEO, what's it gonna take for you to do something? Yeah, do you even care?
Climate change affects all of us.
This is your chance to do something good.
important issue in the governor's race here in Virginia?
Getting back to the basics of teaching children, not teaching them critical race theory.
And what is critical race theory?
Well, I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because I don't understand it that much, but it's something that what little bit that I know, I don't care for.
And what have you heard that you don't?
Well,
that you
I'm
don't
not.
like?
I'm not going to. I don't have that much knowledge on it, but it's something that I don't care for.
If I'm beaten and raped in the state of Texas, I have to give birth to the baby of my rapist. If I am raped by my father, brother, or uncle and get pregnant in the state of Texas, I have to give birth to the baby of my family abuser. This new law is so draconian that I can be prosecuted for having an abortion, and so can my doctors, friends, and family who advise me, or even the Uber driver who simply drives me to the clinic. This is madness. The same people who have been protesting and screaming, "My body, my choice," when it comes to the COVID vaccine, are now saying I don't have any control over my own body. Texas Republicans won't require a 12-year-old girl to wear a mask in school that may save her life and the lives of other children, but they will force her to keep a baby regardless of how she got pregnant, including rape and incest. I am a woman, and I have a constitutional right to make decisions for my own body. I am a woman, and I have a human right to refuse to give birth to my rapist's baby. I am a woman. This is my body. I am a woman. This is the United States of America. I am a woman. You do not own or control my mind or my body.
Body is my choice.
Shame on the men and women who passed this law, and shame on anyone who sits in silence while women suffer and die because of it.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, folks, welcome back. So, another Knobs.com paper here. It's local. Written by Sawyer Loftus again. Entitled, "Orono and Old Town are the latest to ditch school mask requirements. 2 more Bangor area school units have opted to drop their mask requirements, joining a growing number of schools that have made face coverings optional. Students in the Old Town-based Regional School Unit 34 are no longer required to wear masks effective March 9th. In Orono, RSU 26 students will have the option to ditch their masks on March 21st. The decisions by school boards in Old Town and Orono follow state health and education officials' decisions to drop a statewide recommendation for mask mandates in schools and daycares. The changes to the statewide guidance took effect Wednesday, while Orono's mask optional policy won't take effect until later in the month. Students at ASA Adams Elementary School no longer had to wear masks at recess starting March 9th, RSU 26 Superintendent Meredith Higgins said. Masks are... Get down. Come on. Stay down. Masks are already coming off in some schools in the Bangor area. A new mask optional policy took effect March 9th in Bangor's public schools. The Herman School Department earlier announced it will drop its mask requirement on March the 14th, and Brewer rescinded its mask mandate 2 weeks ago. Lewiston, Maine's second largest city, has also made masks optional in its schools, and students in Portland schools will no longer have to wear masks starting March the 14th, according to the school department's website. Maine has not had a statewide mask mandate in schools since Governor Janet Mills allowed a state of emergency to expire last June. Since then, those decisions have rested with local school officials. Okay, so, we're seeing, a relaxed, thing here going on with masks in the state, which I don't think is just, something, it's only happening here. I think across the country, a lot of schools are, ending the mandates, and ending the mandates. Personally, what I think is that whenever you have a classroom of like 30 or 40, students in the classroom, and they're all sitting in rows close together, if none of them are wearing a mask and just one of them has COVID and they may not be symptomatic, they could spread it around and it could flare up again. We've been seeing, sort of a roller coaster here in Maine of, spikes and then it drops and then spikes and then it drops, for the last, 2-3 months, I guess, especially when we had that, that new variant of it out there. So I think that, it's good to still be cautious. But if, you can't, if the schools don't want to do the mandate, then you can't force them to. But I would still recommend the students wear them if they're in school, just for their own safety. I would have the kids wear them and say, look, if they laugh at you, fine. But the thing of it is just remind them, hey, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to make you sick. And okay. But until, COVID is essentially eradicated from the world, I don't think anybody should really let their guard down 100%. I think that there should be some, in the back of your mind that, hey, it's not, hey, look, even before COVID, remember how kids would get sick and they'd pass it around the whole damn school and all that, that goes to show you just how easy it is to catch any virus in a school, right? So would you still want to risk that when you have a pandemic like this going on? You still want to risk that? Look, the pandemic is not gone yet. We're still living under it, okay? It might be going through this lull phase right now, but it's still out there. There's countries out there that are fighting this still. And so we don't really want to just make people think that this is all done and over with, because that's the wrong message to send. And I feel like that's kind of what what's being done is people, I think, are just tired of hearing about COVID. They're tired about having to learn to live with it. They're tired about hearing what they're supposed to do to live with it. And, they just want to hear what they want to hear. And that's, no mandates. Okay, that's what's on everybody's mind. Right? They don't want to be told what to do. Okay. And for Americans, that's, I don't know, it's kind of like a big thing, not being told what to do. Even if it's good for you, even if what they're telling you to do is to help you, to protect you, they don't want to hear it. They just don't want to hear it. They don't want somebody, trying to enlighten them. They want to feel like they know everything. And so when somebody like Dr. Fauci gets on the television and tells people, the steps they got to take, that's a threat. Right off the bat, it's a threat. Even though the guy has no menace at all for any of these people that he's trying to help, they take it as an insult. That's the weirdest thing about, living in this country here with Americans, is that so many of them take recommendations and suggestions as an insult. Nobody likes to be, one-upped, as it were. and that comes from our explosive lifestyle that we live, where we're just, rush, all the time. And, this dog-eat-dog economic system that we live under, I mean, it's made us where we have to be independent all the time, because we can't depend on anybody else to help us. So we have to make up our own minds. So they don't want anybody who's generally trying to help come out and telling people what to do. They don't like that. Okay, so that's why I think in a lot of ways the way that WHO and the CDC handled the pandemic and all that for America wasn't the right way. I mean, they probably could have done that, all what they did for other countries, but in the United States, you got to have a different approach. You got to make people feel like they still have the power to do what they have to do to combat this thing. That's why when they started putting these the self-tests for the COVID-19 kits in the stores to go buy, people liked that better. More people were testing themselves. They, instead of having to go to a clinic or go to a hospital or what have you to get this done, they felt it was better to just go and buy the damn thing yourself and do it at home. Okay, because that gives them the power to go out and do something about it instead of having somebody order you to a clinic. Okay, and I think that was the best way to handle that. Americans don't want to feel like things are out of their control, which in a lot of cases they are. They just don't realize it. But when it comes to that, well, I'll tell you, they will not, they won't yield. So, like I said, I think that with the mask mandates being lowered in a lot of places, I'm expecting to hear on my local COVID updates that, there's going to be a spike, in certain parts of people getting sick again. Up to now, I've been right most of the time about when these spikes happen, because all you got to do is just, when people are getting into these gatherings and stuff like that for the holidays, and then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, people are getting sick all over the place. Okay, that sign right there tells you that, hey, there's still potential there for these things to just begin again. And it takes months to kind of bring it down, but people really shouldn't just assume that the problem is gone and over with. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I will come up with more things there to discuss later, and I hope everyone has stays healthy and keeps their ears open to the COVID news. Subscribe and comment whenever you want, and I'll try to get back as soon as I can when I see the comments. Hopefully that we can create some kind of discussion on certain things that might be educational for both of us. So anyway, take care and enjoy your weekend.